Ooh. Hello. Grandad has decided to make a channel of his own for all my grandchildren. Now, for me, it's bedtime. So I've got a cup of tea, super, and a book, ready for a story. Thought you might like to have a listen. This one's called The Emperor's New Clothes. Well, there was once an emperor who was very vain. He changed his clothes many times a day. Indeed, he had a different suit for every hour. Every room in his palace had a full-length mirror, so that the emperor could check that his hat was on straight and there were no wrinkles in his clothes. And one day there came to his court 2 rascals who were weavers. They let it be known that they could weave a special cloth with this magical property. It couldn't be seen by anyone who was unfit for the job he held or was a bit of a simpleton. Well, the emperor soon got to hear of them and made up his mind to have a new suit of clothes made from this marvellous material. He gave the weaver lots of money and silk and gold thread, which they hid in their rucksacks. The 2 weavers set up their looms and very carefully pretended to weave the threads into cloth, but in fact their looms were completely empty. Now the emperor wondered how his cloth was coming along, but he didn't want to seem too eager. No, so he sent his oldest and most trusted minister in his place. The minister came into the weaver's room and watched them moving their hands busily about their looms, but he couldn't see anything there. Oh dear, he thought, whatever can this mean? Surely I'm not a simpleton, and as being unfit for my job, why, I've served the emperor faithfully most of my life. What can I tell him about the cloth? I don't know. I don't want him to know. I can't see it. What's the matter? Asked one of the weavers. Don't you like the design? Look, said the other. Can't you see the zigzags here and the twirly-whirly bits there? Well, of course, said the flustered minister. It's absolutely charming. I'm sure the emperor will be very pleased. And he went back to the emperor and described all the zigzags and the twirly-whirly bits with great enthusiasm. And the next day, the emperor sent another ambassador to the weavers. He had the same problem. He couldn't see a thing, but he wasn't going to let on. Maybe I should say at this point, a weaver is somebody who is making clothes out of thread. And these rascals did nothing going round and round the loom. They were just pretending. Okay. He's had the same problem. He couldn't see a thing, but he wasn't going to let on. Well, how do you like the colour? Asked one weaver. Lovely, said the ambassador, clapping his hands and pretending to be very impressed. Oh, yes, very nice. Whereas really he couldn't see anything at all. Do you think the purple goes well with the green and gold? Asked the other weaver. Quite enchanting, said the ambassador. I'm sure the emperor will love it. And he went back to the emperor and described the purple and gold and green, not to mention the turquoise and the orange and everything else he couldn't really see. The emperor was very impressed. He couldn't wait to see for himself. So the next day he went to see the miraculous cloth. As soon as he entered the room, he felt very uncomfortable. Everyone was watching for his reaction, but he couldn't see anything. He looked at the weavers, who were pretending to weave away some lovely material for his new outfit. Only they weren't doing it, they were pretending. And the king, well, he couldn't see anything. But he didn't want to let everybody know that, did he? So, what's this, thought the emperor. Am I a simpleton? Am I unfit to be emperor? We can't have everyone knowing. I've got to pretend I can see it. So he praised the weavers for their work. Oh, what fine design, what glorious colours, and ordered himself a suit to be made from the cloth. The weavers solemnly took his measurements, yes, and said the suit would be ready in the morning. The emperor gave orders for a grand procession to be held the next day. He would walk through the streets of his city wearing his marvellous new suit, and all his subjects would look at him and be amazed. Word soon travelled through the city about the magic properties of the cloth, and the citizens got up early and lined the route of the procession. But everybody knew, even though they couldn't see it, they mustn't say anything. The emperor got up early too and waited for the weavers. They'd been up all night with candles burning in their workroom, and they pretended to pull the cloth off the loom, to cut it into shape and to sew it with needles that had no thread in them. In the morning they came to the emperor's bedchamber, which had more mirrors in it than any other room in the palace, carefully holding their arms out in front of them as if they were carrying something. But there was nothing there. If your majesty would be so gracious as to take off your clothes, said one, we could fit you with this lovely new suit. The material is so light, said the other, that you won't even know you're wearing it. Then they proceeded to put the imaginary suit on the emperor, adjusting the fit of the imaginary jacket, the fall of the imaginary cloak, buttoning the imaginary trousers, and putting the imaginary hat into the emperor's hand. How do I look? Asked the emperor, twirling in front of the mirror. Oh, magnificent, handsome, noble, truly imperial, they all said. And so the emperor set out on his procession. 6 footmen in livery held a silken canopy over his head as he stepped out onto the street, out of his carriage. A gasp went up from the people. This is what they were supposed to see. A grand emperor clad in colourful and expensive clothes. This is actually what they saw. A rather plump, middle-aged man wearing no clothes at all. But they all knew about the magic cloth and what it meant if you couldn't see it. So they clapped and cheered and threw their hats in the air and cried, "Long live the emperor!" and 3 cheers for our elegant and fashionable emperor. All except one little boy. He hadn't heard about the magic cloth. He tugged at his mother's sleeve. Said in a very loud, clear voice, "Here, the emperor's got no clothes on!" All of a sudden the crowd stopped cheering. The people looked at one another. Then they all started saying it. "The emperor's got no clothes on! The emperor's in his birthday suit! Oh, put it away! Put it away!" Fancy walking down the street with no clothes on. Even the courtiers started whispering to one another, and the footmen holding the canopy just giggled until they could hardly hold the poles up. That was when the emperor realised he'd been tricked. But there was nothing he could do except finish his walk through the streets as naked as the day he was born, and then go back to the palace. The weavers were nowhere to be seen. They'd done a runner. Oh dear. But as soon as he got back, the emperor put on his most plain, dull suit, and he didn't change it again all day. The very next morning he threw out all his full-length mirrors. But that taught him a lesson, didn't it? The end. Well, kids, it's time for me to go to bed. So, I hope you sleep well. Lots of love to all. Take care. See you soon. Bye.